All right, so welcome back to Real Auto Reports. I'm Jonathan McGrew, and we are here at Real Auto Ranch on this blustery day, so we do apologize for any wind noise that we can't control. But we have a very exciting car with us today, the 2014 Toyota Corolla. This is the LE. It is the Eco edition, so it's the LE Eco. And there are a lot of interesting pieces about that, including a different engine. And with this all-new design, we have a lot to talk about in this Real First Impressions. So let's take a closer look and see what this car has to offer. All right, so from the front, this 2014 Toyota Corolla is pretty different from the previous generation. It has a more sloped nose, I feel, a pointier nose, and really fits more in line with the 2013 and 12, 13, and of course the 14 Camry, the one that we saw redesigned a few years ago. It's also going to fit more in line with the Toyota Highlander and the other vehicles that they're redesigning. You'll see this kind of common grille feature and structure through all of these cars, this elegant curve. It's not going to be a sexy car or a aggressive car, but it is going to be a nice looking compact four-door sedan. And one of the neat features from the front on this blustery day, and we do apologize for the wind, but one of the things that you're going to find that's neat is that it has 414 standard LED headlights. And in this Eco package, you can also see we have fog lights, and it's going to have a few other features in the LE Eco that we want to tell you about. Now, you're going to be able to tell these cars apart in the model lines now because the Sport is going to have the chrome grille. And it's going to be the only one in the model line that will. So you'll be able to tell what your friends have bought and what your co-Corolla owners have bought as well. Let's go take a look at the side. All right, so from the side, again, the Corolla is never going to be a jump out and slap you around with its designs kind of car. But I think that Toyota has done a nice job. It's got a nice profile. If you put it next to the Honda Civic, one of its main competitors, you're going to see that the body languages are fitting together well. It's today's design language, but it does have a nice strong detail here in the shoulder or in the belt line of the car. You have color keyed door handles in this model, and also on the LE Eco we have color keyed mirrors. You're not going to find things like blind spot monitoring on this one, but you do in the LE Eco package have defrosters in the mirror, which in Colorado we'll need probably tomorrow. That's what this wind means, is that some front is going to come through and dump snow on us. The other thing that's neat about the LE Eco is that you have these 16-inch wheels, and they are a special Eco design for this model to help wind and all of that, the drag coefficient on the car. The other thing that we like to point out about the Toyotas is that they're very proud of their wind diffusers. They're vortex generators is what they call them. There's one by the mirror on the driver's door, and there's always a couple here on the taillight. Those direct wind around the car and actually pull it in tighter at speed to help wind stability. It actually gives the car a more stable feeling at speed. And those are the things that Toyota does on these new cars that they're designing to make them more safe, they're drivable, more fun, more stable, and functional, even when you might not even notice these little vortex generators. All in all, it's a fairly slab side design, but it has a little bit of interest, a little bit of curve here and detail down in the bottom of the doors, and we think that it's probably the nicest Corolla that we've seen in a while. And the reason why is that it wraps together nicely. Let's go check out the back, and we'll show you how the taillights bring the front of the design all the way around the back and integrate it nicely. All right, so from the back, I mentioned that a couple things will set these cars apart in the model packages. With the LE Eco, these are the only models, the LE Eco and the Sport, that will have this nice lip spoiler on the back of the trunk lid. You're also going to have your LE and Eco badging, the Eco in green, of course, because you are getting the best fuel economy in this model. But we'll talk about that in a minute when we go under the hood. You also have a very nice trunk in the back with a power trunk release right here under the lip that's fairly easy to find. Also, you'll notice there is a rear backup camera, standard in this model, and with the 6.1 screen inside, and then 13 cubic feet of trunk space, which is, well, pretty nice because I could jump in there like I have before, shut the lid, and you wouldn't see me anymore. I like this car because it balances the compact car language with, you know, a stylish vehicle for a decent price. You see how the taillights wrap around from the front, and they have a nice look, more Camry-esque really. You see them tying the model families together again. All in all, it is a good look, and you've got some nice features for about a $23,000 price point. And you might get a better deal at a dealer when you go looking, because that is just the manufacturer's suggested retail price. The other thing that I want to mention from the back here is that you see that all of this is color keyed. It's all very nice, and it's in a metallic. These are things that on economy cars from 20 years ago we just wouldn't have seen. So Toyota is doing a nice job across their model families, and we can see it trickling down to the very base models like this Toyota Corolla. But let's check and see what they did in the inside, because the changes there are just as dramatic. All right, so from the driver's seat, inside the new Toyota Corolla for 2014, you're going to find a lot more soft touch and a lot more features than you probably would have been expecting. And in fact, the design is much nicer. It's this fluid dashboard design that they're pulling through a lot of their vehicles, and you'll see similarities, of course, like you would expect as they redesign each vehicle. But the thing I like about this interior on this LE Eco is we have this soft text leather-like material. Think of it as a vinyl that isn't as egregious in the summer. It is stain resistant and water resistant. It is going to have neat features in this car to go with it, like heated seats for both passenger and driver, and they're a two-stage, so high and low, and they're easily reachable up here in the front of the console, just below the traditional center stack in front of the shifter. It's got a gated shifter with a soft text type boot, which is supposed to give it a sportier feel. You also have a lot of steering wheel controls, things we aren't used to seeing on compact cars as much, but have started to see over the last few years. And things like your volume control, your display controls for the trip computer, and your Bluetooth controls for your phone. All things that we really like. Power mirrors, of course, the defroster in the mirror, like I said, and your 6.1 touchscreen. Also, the piano black accents around everything give this car a richer sense than we used to expect from economy cars. But players like the Kia Forte and the Hyundai Sonata have really made it a necessity for these cars to go up and up and up in perception of value for the money and luxury appeal when you get into these upper packages like the LE and the LE Eco like we're in today. I think it's actually a really nice interior, comfortable driver's seat, and you might be surprised if you go check one out. Let's go check out the details under the hood where this Eco really shines. All right, so under the hood, I think this is where this Toyota Corolla LE Eco really shines. It is a 1.8 liter four-cylinder engine. It has 140 horsepower, and that is about 8 horsepower more than the standard LE with the regular 1.8 liter four-cylinder. And the reason it has that 8 extra horsepower is the Valvematic, and you can see that right here on top of the engine. That is basically a variable valve timing feature, and it allows them to get a little bit more out of this engine. No doubt there's some other things in there that help, like computer programming and so on and so forth. The other neat thing is that it has an eco feature that helps you drive more efficiently. This is going to be nothing new to Toyota fans, because that eco button basically changes up the accelerator inputs and the shifting and all of that. But Toyota has worked really hard at the CVT that is in this car to make it more dynamic, make it feel more like a regular transmission while still giving you the benefits of a CVT, which means that you can get off the line from a light and accelerate at a decent rate without that eco light turning off, and that's your indicator that it is still being efficient. It is a neat car with 30 miles per gallon city, 40 highway, and a 34 mile per gallon combined. That is pretty good for a pretty good size 4-door sedan in the compact segment. And remember that this is going to be several inches longer and a few inches wider than its predecessor. So right in that 4 inches longer, 2 or 3 inches wider kind of area. And I'll put the real figures up on the screen here for you. But the point is that this will get about a mile per gallon better or so than the regular LE with the CVT, and it'll get several miles per gallon better than the base model Corolla with the 4-speed automatic that they still offer, mated to this 1.8 liter engine without the Valvematic. So Valvematic, I think, is the way to go, but from a first impressions perspective, I find it interesting that Toyota only thinks the mix on this will be low, like 10, maybe about 10% of the cars bought. So I think that people are really going to want to look at this when they figure out how much is in it, how good it does out on the freeway, and how much value is really packaged. So let's go take a look at how this car drives out on the road, and then we'll finish up with the real wrap-up.
All right, so from a first impressions driving perspective, it's got a CVT, but as I said, the CVT has been engineered to be more dynamic, shift more like a normal transmission while still giving you the benefits of the CVT. I actually find that the car is fairly quiet to drive from a first impressions perspective. The steering is not too heavy, not too light. It feels okay. It's not going to feel like a sports car, but it's a pleasurable driving experience. The wheel and the center feel and everything is much better than the old economy cars of 5-10 years ago. So where does it rank against things like a Forte? Well, I think from a driving perspective, it's actually pretty open. You can see over your shoulder even when you're my height. And all in all, I think you're going to be pretty impressed. In fact, if we're driving along here, and it is that time of year, so the sun's in my eyes, but if we're driving along and we floor it, you can see the noise levels in this car. The NVH is really actually good for a compact car. And in this $23,000, $24,000 category, there's a lot of competition from Hyundais and Sonatas and such. So I think you're going to be impressed, and the ride is better than even some of the other compact cars and cars in this price range we've tested just recently. So we will have the wrap-up coming up next, and we'll have the real video with all the details about driving this car for a much longer period coming up soon. So stay tuned.
All right, so that is the real first impressions on this 2014 Toyota Corolla. All new for 2014, and honestly, I think it is a pretty nice design. In fact, I think that it is a much better look and persona for the Corolla than the previous generation. And when you get people like Edmunds and Motor Trend and those type of magazines talking about how this could be the first Corolla in a long time to compete with the Honda Civic, then you know that Toyota is going down the right road. It has a lot of brand attributes that follow through with a lot of the new vehicles, including the 2014 Highlander that we saw at the preview event out in California just recently. It's on our YouTube, you can check it out. But at right about $23,000, just a few hundred over as tested with this LE Eco, it's got great features: navigation, 6.1 touchscreen, 140 horsepower with the Valvematic, whatever they call it, timing, which basically means, for those of you who are not gearheads, that it has variable valve timing and can get a little bit more power out of the 1.8 liter 4-cylinder. It's good. It gets 30 miles per gallon in town, 40 out on the highway, and 34 combined. And that is better than any of the other Corolla models you can buy. And yet it is still a very well outfitted car with the soft text interior, leather-like, and so many features that you would expect, well, to find at a more luxury price point, probably. 23 is at the upper end of the Corolla echelons, except for the Sport, but we think a lot of people are going to really dig this new compact car from Toyota. And with 13 cubic feet of trunk room, well, it has pretty much impressed us on this real first impression. But we're going to have the detailed review with the real video, so make sure you come back and check that out in the future coming down the road. I'm Jonathan McGrew. This is Real Auto Reports. Blustery as it is, we are here at Real Auto Ranch, and we will see you down the road.